Hey guys, how's it going? Jeff Davis here with Latex Grenade. I'm going to break down some of the stuff we're doing with regards to the guitar, particularly on the new album B minor that we're recording right now. From head to toe, the guitar setup. Obviously you can't play a guitar without the strings. That's probably the first thing. On this album, honestly, in preference in general, I will usually use the power slinkies, which are a little bit thicker than the regulars. I like Ernie Ball. Personally, that's a preference thing, but particularly in a three-piece band, needing like a little bit more out of the guitar just as a fullness live is actually why I originally moved to it. But it's one thing that I started getting used to and playing. But it does get quite tiring though, downstrumming those thicker strings. So on this album we just recently acquired a 7-string guitar to hit the low B on a couple of the breakdowns on this album, just to be heavier. So that's been an experience in its own. I'll talk about that in a second. But for the 7-string, we'll be using the Diodarios, which these are wound a little bit differently, so they have some more longevity, but they also have a little bit more ease of playability. There's like a little bit of more lubrication on the string. So something pretty interesting to try. I've only used these one other time on tour a few years back, so I look forward to playing with those. Now guitar picks, they're the type of thing that you use when you're little and you stick to them. The .72 medium Dunlaps. I don't think I'll be playing another pick anytime soon. Those things have been around since at least 10 years old, and I haven't changed. but sometimes a thicker pick helps. Now going to the guitars, we got, like I said earlier, we got 2 guitars that we're going to be working on. This is the main one that we play with. It's a very iconic, the Latex Grenade iconic sharp tone with our guitars has mostly been come out of this vehicle right here. It is a Carvin, which is now Kiesel guitars, powered pickups. Very similar to the EMG model powered pickups, maple flame top, neck through back. This thing is just such an awesome instrument. It's one of the best guitars I have. I have Les Pauls and I have a couple other guitars, and honestly, this thing is just so much more interesting to play, but also easier to play, particularly up top on the neck. So the second guitar that we're going to be tracking with this week is actually a new one we purchased used from our friends over at Sam Ash. It's the Schecter Blackjack, and we didn't want to go all in and buy like a crazy expensive guitar, particularly the fact that we're going to be experimenting with the 7-string for the first time, but we also didn't want to buy something super crappy, so we bought something pretty middle of the line. But this is one of the Seymour Duncan humbuckers. It's one of the hottest passive pickups that on the market right now, particularly shaped for the metal genre. Although we're not necessarily completely metal, the sharp tone is really cool to play, and it's been pretty fun to play the low B, particularly in different tunings, messing around with getting it in A and playing like a bar chord, like a down tuning. So going to the amplifier, if you know me, you know that I love to talk about the Kemper. That's my main rig. I went from the PV5150 to the Kemper. The funny thing about the Kemper is I ended up modeling mostly the PV5150 tone in the Kemper. So it's kind of funny that I have this thing that's literally a computer processor, and I modeled it to sound like my old amp. But the beauty about it is actually right here. You have the ability to gate quite a bit, so you don't get any feedback. This is the Kemper version that is tied with the amplifier. They make a simpler Kemper as well, which is just the DI. But this one actually can play on top of a speaker box. I bought it to tour, to be honest, to play with as my monitor as well as going DI. Now going to preamps, and that's the guitar setup. But now we're going to talk about recording the guitar, and so we have the VT P-1 Digitech preamp. Honestly, middle of the line preamp, nothing crazy. When we track vocals, we're going to use a far nicer preamp to work with, and so we'll be tracking in Logic. we're tracking in Logic Pro. So far, obviously, the project this far is drums and bass. Now, when you go into the guitars, you'll see that simultaneously we're recording 4 tracks at once. We have the dry out, which is the Kemper. It's literally like an acoustic sound coming out of there, and that is when we choose to reamp later. If we choose to mess around with different speaker boxes and settings, we can actually run it through the Kemper back out through a speaker with a setting and get a potentially better tone down the road. And then we have our direct out guitar from the Kemper going in. It's mono. On this, for the distortion channels, we're not going to be using any stereo settings. We're going to do the stereo imaging actually in here through doubling the guitar. So we're going to have the main out, and then I'll show you in a second, we're going to have the microphone blend right here. So we're taking 2 microphones in the cab, and then we're going to blend those together. So that's going to be the guitar left. And we're essentially going to do the same thing on the right side. So all of the guitars on the first take, in a perfect world it's only 1 take, but it's usually 30 or 40 takes. This is guitar left green right here, and I color code these because they have to be grouped together. When you start editing and comping the guitar track and they're not grouped, you can potentially take the Kemper guitar out with the microphone out, and you can accidentally use different takes, which would be a disaster. Coming back from that is very challenging. So that's the left speaker right there, guitar left. You can see the heavy stereo pan right here, and then also you'll see this is the right track. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take the same 4, the 2 mic blends, the main out mono, and the guitar right, but we're going to record the double into the right guitar. Now that's going to be the backbone of the guitar strategy into the song. However, obviously, there's going to be a lot of aesthetics that we're going to add to the guitar as well. Potentially, if there's an enunciation of a riff that we like a dun 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 dun, maybe it's worth putting an extra guitar just to bring that out in the mix. But also chorus guitars, different clean guitars, and also aesthetics of just making the sound just sound forward. They're subtle. But so that's some stuff we often mess around with regards to the guitar as well. So the last thing is going over here, and by the way, we're tracking this at the Counterflow House in San Diego. But the last thing is exactly the way in which we're gonna get the microphone blend out of the speaker boxes. So we're kind of using an old school strategy of miking the guitar cab, but we're also using a new school strategy of DI using the Kemper. It's a very contemporary way to record. But with regards to the microphones, you're going to have a standard Shure SM57 right here. We've been instructed, and the research says not to have the mic directly into the cone. Now, when we used the Shure by itself, we found that the guitar had a little bit more mids in it than we wanted into the mix. So talking with our engineers and the producers with it, we've actually opted to put a condenser as a second microphone over here. Now this is our prized possession, just recently got. We will actually be doing the vocals with it as well. It's the Neumann TLM 103, one of the finer market microphones around for the price range. You have like $25,000 microphones, but you also have a Neumann, which is a strong price for an entry level, but an extremely good quality mic. Now we're going to be miking this thing. The one thing that's very interesting about the microphones, though, is that you have phase issues if the diaphragms aren't perfectly aligned in the box. So if you look really closely here, you'll see that the diaphragm, if you shine a light right down this, you'll see the circular diaphragm right here. You'll see that it's perfectly congruent and in line with the Shure SM57 microphone. Now we can always mess with and the phase problem is they're magnets. So it's gonna sound like very weak. If there's a phase problem, then you have to switch it later. It's pretty annoying to switch It's pretty annoying to track guitars when the phase has a big problem. It just sounds terrible. So last thing, this is the Sheffield box, PV Sheffield speaker box. Had it for many years. Very modeled after the Celestion's vintage 30s, if you will. But quite frankly, I just love PV's stuff though. They produce so much output with their sound. So we've been using them for years. But with regards to the guitar, that's how it's going to be tracked. We're super stoked about the new album we're working on, B minor, Latex Grenade. We can't wait to show you guys some new music. Check it out on Spotify or iTunes or any other streaming platform this winter.